In a world divided by culture, race, and religion, love often becomes the bridge that connects people who would otherwise remain distant. It speaks no specific language, recognizes no man-made boundary, and sees beyond the surface differences that humans tend to focus on. This is the story of a Muslim boy and a Christian girl, two souls who, by destiny, were placed in each other's path. What unfolded between them was not just a tale of love, but a powerful journey that challenged their beliefs, opened their hearts, and ultimately changed their lives forever. He was raised with Islamic values, prayer, respect, modesty, and a deep sense of spiritual purpose. She was brought up in a Christian household, surrounded by values of kindness, faith, and community. They came from different worlds, yet something drew them together. Maybe it was their shared laughter, their curious minds, or simply the way their hearts found peace in each other's presence. Whatever it was, their bond grew, but so did the questions. Could two people from such different faiths truly understand one another? Could love thrive where beliefs seemed to diverge? Their journey began with honest conversations, not arguments, not debates, just pure curiosity and the willingness to listen. He didn't preach and she didn't resist. They talked about life, about God, about why they pray, and what gives their lives meaning. She saw the calmness in his heart when he spoke about prayer and submission. She noticed the discipline in his actions and the purity in his intentions. For the first time, Islam wasn't something foreign to her, it became something beautiful and real. As she asked more, he answered patiently. He didn't try to change her, he simply shared what he knew. Slowly, she began to realize that Islam wasn't just about rituals, it was about purpose, peace, and clarity. She started to see how it offered answers to the questions that had always lingered in her soul. She felt something stir inside her, a feeling of connection, of understanding, of truth. The boy, too, felt the weight of their growing bond. He knew the challenges ahead, but he also believed that if something is meant by God, it will happen in the most beautiful way. He didn't force anything. He left space for her to explore. What happened next wasn't just a transformation in their relationship, it was a transformation in her heart. This isn't just a love story. This is a story about how love opened a door to faith, how a kind heart led another to the truth, how one stranger, simply by being genuine and grounded, planted a seed of light in someone else's life. It's about discovering that the greatest connection isn't just between two people, but between the soul and its creator. And in the end, what changed everything wasn't just love, it was understanding, it was truth. It was the power of Islam to guide hearts gently, not forcefully. This story will leave you thinking, feeling, and maybe even crying. Not just for the couple, but for the beauty of faith that finds people in the most unexpected ways. He was just an ordinary Muslim boy living in a diverse city surrounded by people of different backgrounds, faiths, and beliefs. His world was shaped by the teachings of Islam, rooted in family values, spiritual discipline, and a deep sense of purpose. He didn't expect his life to take a turn just because of a simple, unexpected encounter, but that's exactly what happened the day he met her. A Christian girl with a warm smile and curious eye. At first, their connection was innocent. They shared common interests, laughed at the same jokes, and slowly became part of each other's daily lives. It wasn't about religion or differences, it was about understanding, kindness, and the comfort of each other's company. But as time passed, deeper conversations began to surface. She had questions, real ones, about faith, about his prayers, about what drove him to live the way he did. And he answered, not with arrogance or pressure, but with sincerity and humility. He didn't see her as someone to convert, but as a human being trying to make sense of the world. He spoke of Islam as he lived it, peacefully, respectfully, and meaningfully. She was struck by his consistency, how his faith wasn't just a title but a way of life. She admired the way he found peace in prayer, how he treated his parents, how he controlled his anger, and how his heart always leaned toward kindness, even when faced with challenges. These weren't just traits she noticed, they were qualities she began to admire. Slowly, the wall between their beliefs began to dissolve, replaced by a bridge of trust and curiosity. For her, this was no longer about religion being right or wrong. It was about something deeper, about truth, about guidance, about the feeling that something greater was calling her. Through one boy's example, she saw a version of Islam that wasn't defined by media headlines or stereotypes. It was something alive, something beautiful. And without ever trying to convince her, he showed her that real dawah doesn't come from words alone. It comes from the heart, from actions, from how we live. And that's what began to change her life. She began asking more questions, not out of debate, but from genuine interest. Her curiosity turned into late-night conversations, quiet moments of reflection, and even silent tears as she tried to understand a world she had never truly explored before. It wasn't that she disliked her own faith. It was familiar, comforting. But something about Islam stirred her heart in a way she couldn't ignore. The way it emphasized purpose, personal accountability, and a direct connection with God spoke to her soul. She watched how the Muslim boy treated everyone around him, not just her, with compassion and fairness. His behavior wasn't performative, it was deeply rooted. When she saw how he paused everything for prayer, she saw discipline. When he fasted, she saw strength. When he forgave, she saw grace. Each action wasn't about impressing anyone, it was his way of life. That authenticity moved her in ways words never could. And so, without being forced or persuaded, she started learning. Not just from him, but from books, online resources, even quietly attending a local mosque from afar. She found herself drawn not just to Islam's teachings, but to its structure, its consistency, and its sense of peace. The more she learned, the more her heart felt at ease. It was as if the scattered pieces of her life were slowly falling into place. She started practicing small things, dressing modestly, praying in her own way, fasting to understand what it meant to go without, for something greater. It wasn't about a boy anymore, it was about her, about truth, about what her soul had been searching for. And though the world around her didn't understand, she knew deep down that this journey was hers to walk. And she was finally walking toward the light. The journey wasn't easy. The Christian girl, now caught between the beliefs she was raised with and the spiritual awakening she was experiencing, faced internal battles that words can barely capture. She was afraid of losing the love of her family, afraid of being misunderstood, afraid of being judged. But amid all the fear, there was also clarity, a clarity she never felt before. The more she learned about Islam, the more she realized that faith wasn't about abandoning love, it was about finding deeper love, real love, built on truth and connection with the Creator. Her family noticed the change in her. She wasn't rebellious or distant, but she was different, more thoughtful, more grounded. She wasn't just questioning for the sake of questioning. She was seeking something. They worried, they challenged her, and sometimes they even accused her of changing because of the Muslim boy. But she knew in her heart this journey wasn't for him, it was for her. He had only been the spark. The rest was between her and the one above. She cried in secret, she prayed in silence, and the more she fought with herself, the more her heart settled on Islam as her path. Not because she was trying to rebel, not because of romance, but because of the truth she couldn't unsee anymore. She saw how Islam didn't ask her to stop loving her family, but it did call her to love her Creator even more. It wasn't a religion of division, it was a religion of peace, purpose, and ultimate unity. The Muslim boy never pressured her, he never said, "You have to change." He simply stayed the same. Steadfast in his character, soft in his words, and strong in his values. And that unwavering example was what kept her strong during the moments she almost gave up. He reminded her through his actions that Allah guides whom He wills, and when the heart is sincere, the path becomes clear. In that chaos of identity, pressure, and emotion, she finally found clarity. She found peace in submission, not to people, not to culture, but to her Creator. And with that peace came strength. Enough to stand up, to declare her new faith, and to take the first step into a new life. When she embraced Islam, everything changed, but not in the way people expected. It wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, it was quiet, calm, and deeply personal. She didn't post it on social media or try to prove a point. She simply began living with purpose. Her mornings began with prayer, and her days were guided by values that brought her closer to the peace she had long been searching for. Her family didn't take it well at first. There were tears, arguments, even silence that stretched for days, but she remained patient, never responding with anger. Instead, she showed love in her actions, helping around the house, checking on them, and being present. She didn't try to force them to understand. She knew faith wasn't something you could hand over. It had to be felt. And slowly, without words, her peace began to speak for her. The Muslim boy stood by her side, not as a savior, but as a supporter. He reminded her to put trust in the Creator, not in people. When she stumbled, he reminded her of mercy. When she doubted, he reminded her of strength. They weren't perfect, but they grew together, not just in love for each other, but in love for the path they both chose. People around them couldn't believe it. A story that began with two different worlds had transformed into one, united by something far greater than culture or background. It was faith, it was truth, and it was the courage to follow that truth even when the world didn't understand. In the end, what started as a love story turned into something far deeper, a journey back to the soul's origin, a return to purpose, and a reminder that true love always leads back to the one who created it. The journey wasn't smooth. Along the way, they faced harsh judgment from both Muslim and Christian communities. Some questioned their intentions, others labeled their relationship as impossible. But what people didn't see were the late-night conversations about faith, the mutual curiosity, the hours spent researching, questioning, and learning. It wasn't a relationship based on rebellion or defiance. It was built on discovery of themselves, of each other, and of something higher. The Muslim boy didn't pressure her into belief. He never made her feel like Islam was a condition for his love. Instead, he showed her the beauty of his faith through actions, how he treated his parents, how he respected women, how he remained calm during hardships. She began to see that Islam wasn't just a religion, it was a lifestyle, one that gave structure, meaning, and a deep sense of peace. What truly moved her wasn't a debate or a lecture. It was watching him get up before sunrise to pray. It was the way he lowered his gaze in respect. It was how he fasted without complaint, gave charity without pride, and forgave when others wouldn't. These weren't just rituals. They were reflections of a heart connected to something eternal. And slowly something shifted inside her. She began asking questions not out of doubt, but out of hope. Could this path be for her too? Could she find the same inner calm? And as she learned more, it wasn't just about being with him, it was about being closer to truth. The more she understood Islam, the more she realized this was what her heart had been searching for all along. Eventually, the moment came that neither of them had planned, but both had prayed for in their own quiet ways. She stood with tears in her eyes, surrounded by a few close friends and sisters in faith, and uttered the words that would change her life forever. She embraced Islam not just because of him, but because she had found truth, peace, and purpose in it. Their love story didn't just end with a relationship, it became a journey of transformation. What began as a connection between two people turned into a deeper bond with something greater. Her decision wasn't based on emotion alone, it was rooted in understanding. She read, listened, reflected, and finally surrendered, not to a person, but to the truth that had always been calling her. The boy never claimed credit. He knew that true guidance comes from above. His only role was to be a living example of what Islam teaches: compassion, humility, strength, and mercy. And through his quiet consistency, her heart was awakened. Now they walk the path of faith together, hand in hand, with a love that's built not just on feelings, but on shared values and spiritual growth. Their story is a reminder that sometimes love doesn't just change lives, it leads them back to their Creator.